Last week I posted a video. It was a bit on a whim in the middle of a milestone life moment, moving. It was not a lot of missing a lot of context, or didn't really have a lot of context. I gave I kind of gave a little bit of backstory, and then sprinkled in some tips or advice, if you will. And I made the video, I made a couple posts out on the socials, and it got a lot more attention than I really ever anticipated. So I'm here for a little bit of a part two. And commented, whatever it is, and however it was that you interacted. Thank you. Thank you for caring. Some of you were confused by the emotion that was being displayed, and some of you were very much well aware of what was going on, and you responded accordingly. It was all so beautiful. I felt so loved, so supported, so encouraged. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will say I had the kind of not normal or not frequent experience of I don't know, I guess I would call it like a vulnerability hangover. and then once that sort of settled a little bit, I was reading the comments and the responses and all of that, and found this sort of wave of inspiration to share a bit more about my personal journey, add a bit more context, and build upon last week's message. So like I said, I'm back. Oh, and hey, so by the way, if we're just meeting, we're just getting acquainted, my name is Heather Patterson. I'm a business and mindset coach. I work primarily with entrepreneurs and their teams, and I help them grow their confidence and their beliefs in themselves and each other so that they can grow their business and have a really great life. So I talk a lot about business. I talk about mindset, some of the mystical, some of the methodical. And my belief is that we have life and our businesses are in it, and there are lessons abound. And so I'll talk about life sometimes too, because like you, I also have a life. Some of the other roles that I wear, and if you didn't know, I am a significant other to an amazing man. I am I don't know if I'd go as far as to say bonus mom. We are not married. We have not established motherly things, but I'm certainly a bonus female to some amazing, two amazing boys, sister, daughter, auntie, cousin, friend, community member. And I love to travel and to have new experiences, whether it's a new place, like a country or something, or a new restaurant, or a new bottle of Pinot Noir. I also love to golf and hike, and if there is water, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. If there is water, then I am usually in it or on it. My preferred method of watering is via a surfboard. That doesn't happen a lot these days. And go Ravens, originally from Baltimore. All right, so enough about me. Let's dive into the lesson. Okay, so like I said, I think a part two is in order, mainly because there's a fair amount of context that was missing. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, remember that time, Heather, that, this is me talking to myself, that you forgot to add the sugar to the pecan pie recipe? Like, the pie turned out, like, it was not horrible. It was just a lot better when I added the sugar. Okay, so I'm going to add the sugar, if you will, some context so that you can get a bit more out of like the story and go a bit further as far as the lessons and action to take as a result. Because that's my thing. You got to take some action. So here's what we're going to cover. I'm going to give you a bit more context on where I was coming from. I'm actually going to summarize the lessons that I rattled off at the end of last week's video. And then I'm going to give you a whole hodgepodge of tools that may support you in your journey. Let's go. Isn't it so funny how tears can come up and they can mean different things and different moments in time. Like, and sometimes, especially if you don't hear the audio or you don't have the context, like I forgot, or failed to add, it can kind of be misunderstood. So first and foremost, like I just have to say, the tears were gratitude and an honoring of my personal journey. So what journey am I talking about? Well, like I mentioned in last week's video, go check it out. I'll link it, like I said. I don't know where the link's going to show up. So 5 years ago, I left an abusive relationship. And so I am clear out of the woods. I mentioned in my video, I was fully committed to like healing and growth and development. And along the way, maybe it took a little bit of time. It was probably about a year after ending that relationship, I made this discovery. And I discovered that, and I believe this, and I'm going to hear fair like warning, trigger warning. So I apologize in advance if this, triggers you or someone you know. But for me, what I discovered was that I had actually attracted that abusive relationship. And how and why, like we can get into the deeper story of how attraction and all of that works, which I talk about a fair amount in my business. But long story short, what you may or may not know, depending on how long you've known me, how long you've been following me, is my own self-talk, my belief about myself was exceptionally critical, degrading, shame-based, constant, the thoughts in my head. And so it only makes sense that I had figured out how to justify and allow that from me to me. So it wasn't like that. I shouldn't say it wasn't that big of a deal. Of course it was that big. It was a big deal, but I didn't have a clear boundary. I didn't have my value, my worth, my importance established such that I was able to identify that and say, no, thank you. It really took a lot of time for me to kind of figure out like, whoa, this is not okay. And it started with me saying it's not okay with me to treat myself that way before I ever began to make progress in regard to how somebody else was treating me. So it was very, like I said, very challenging discovery. It was not right away, but it was a useful one and a responsible one. Like it gives me the power. So I made that discovery, and I wish I could tell you that like I made that discovery and boom, voila, like, everything started to come together. No, like I said, this has been a 5-year journey of leaving a relationship, making this discovery. And then, the thing is like, I wasn't perfect at it I'm still not perfect at it. Let's just be real. Okay. But I wasn't even really great at it in the beginning. And so I kept repeating that over and over and over again to a less degree, mind you, than the abusive relationship I was in. However, like not much less. Just like tiny incremental. And it's sort of like progress works in a similar fashion. Like when we think about, I'm a golfer, right? So if I get incrementally better, that's great. But I was also getting incrementally better, but in my relational choices and how I was being with myself and how I was being with other people, yet it still wasn't, if we're using golf as an analogy, I wasn't on par. I wasn't shooting par or below, which is great if you're not a golfer. And so the tears, the joy, the gratitude that I was experiencing and in turn documenting was like, oh, it's so much more than I survived an abusive relationship and I'm moving out of my first apartment, that I had after that relationship. It's way bigger than that. What it is I survived the abusive relationship. I moved out of that and took a lot of risks and did a shitload of work with myself, and then also in relationship with, in my case, with other men, right? On what I was willing to tolerate, how I wanted to be treated, what I was willing to do or not do in relationship. And so now, I'm packing up my boxes and, have the space to really process what's going on. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my partner is so amazing. He would never, ever, ever dream to think of, or to treat me in such a way, because I attracted him, because I attract, just like you, what I am. I am goodness. I am kind. I am love, right? I am generous. I am forgiving, all of those things, right? And so that is the depth, the deeper aspect of the tears that I was experiencing. It's so much more than, leaving that relationship. It is the transformation over the 5 years, because that's another video, another conversation on the stuff that, the repeating patterns that, I wasn't great at first. And I really got committed, several months before meeting him. And then like in the relationship, you guys, like in the relationship, I had to navigate the other habits and the other patterns that would otherwise sabotage a beautiful relationship because of my past experiences. So it was just like, for real, like me going like this to myself and celebrating that. So there's a bit more context for you. And I hope that resonates. Like, I hope that you can see, like, the incremental progress is still progress, and thereby you're successful. And it might be relationship, and also it's related to business, it's related to your health, it's related to your leadership and moving others along. Whatever this looks like, or however it translates for you in your life and what you're working on, it all still applies. The principle of incremental progress transcends. Okay, so now that I've added some context, let's go into the lessons that I rattled off. And I went and I took some notes on these because I was like, boom, boom, boom. And like I said, I didn't have it scripted. I grabbed my camera and didn't even turn it the right way, and just started recording. So I'm going to look down at my notes for a couple of these just so we can keep going along. So what I said was, know yourself, know what you want, be willing to trust, ask for help, let people help you, have faith, and abundance is your birthright. So let's go through each one of them one by one so I can expand on what I meant. And sure, like, are there other lessons? Yeah, like there are tons. And these were the ones that were coming up for me in the moment. So we're just going to stick with these for now. And if you want more lessons, like, subscribe, and, I'll be here to offer them for you. The first thing I said was, know yourself. And I don't mean like the, material, physical makeup. I mean yourself internally. Who are you inside? What are your values? What are your beliefs? And are your beliefs supporting you on where you want to go, what you want to do, how you want to be, what you want to experience? And if they're not, then we get to question, like, wow, like, where did these come from? Are they even true? What would I need to believe in order for things to align and match up and be forward moving? So first and foremost, like I said, know yourself. And what you're going to hear me say is many of these all point back to this first one. Next, I said, know what you want. I talk about this all the time. I talk about it all the time, so much so that I have a free download even. It's called the Fire Starter. I'll link it below. You've heard me talk about it before. Like, if you don't know where you're going, you have no way of navigating the path there. So you have to know what it is you want in all areas of your life. Whew. Okay, the next one. This one is huge. Trust. This goes hand in hand with your beliefs. And it's really about like, do you trust yourself? Do you trust others? Do you trust the unfolding of your life? Do you believe that everything is happening for you? Which I'm here to tell you that it is, even if it doesn't appear that way. Or are you on the opposite side of that spectrum called, oh my gosh, the next villain is waiting around the corner to get me and things are happening to you? So trust, and trusting the unfolding, trusting yourself, trusting others. I also said ask for help. You have to be willing to ask for help. Now, what is your belief around help? See, this world wants you to believe that you've got to go at it alone and that you need to be an independent woman. And yes, independence to some extent is really great, right? However, when you are isolating and shutting people out, it becomes a fault. Everything is on a spectrum. Okay, so what is it that you believe about asking for help? Is that working for you or not? Okay, so now that we've covered the ask for help, then there's the other side of that is let others help you. So once you ask, like, I know this, like I know it, like I know it, is you will get help, right? If you're willing to ask and ask enough times and to the right people, you're going to get help. People will not only be able to help you, they will be willing, and some will even be eager to help you. The question is, are you going to be willing to receive that help? Or are you going to block your blessings? Are you going to push it away? So again, going back to you and your beliefs, what is it that you believe about receiving help? Next, I said, have faith. Like I said, sometimes, the way that the world and life unfolds, it doesn't seem like everything is happening for us. And faith requires us to believe in something we don't see. So does fear. Now, I didn't make that up. My mentor, Bob Proctor, told me about that. And I was like, when I first heard it, I thought, oh my gosh, absolutely. They both require us to believe in something we don't see. The choice is up to you. And lastly, what I said was abundance, and anything that you desire, abundance is your birthright. See, I'm here to remind you, you are the universe, you are God, you are creator, you are divine. That's what we're made up of. And look around, everything is growing and expanding and wanting to express itself. Your desires, what your heart wants, that is expansion and expression for you. But you have to believe it. Now that I summarized the kind of stream of consciousness lessons that came to mind, and I hope that's added some value to you already, I want to share with you a handful of tools. And this is a bit of a hodgepodge. I summarized or categorized them into categories like books, podcasts, seminars and workshops, therapy and coaching, right? So some broad recommendations regardless of where you are on your personal and professional growth journey. See, our businesses are only going to grow to the extent that we do, right? Your business will only grow to the extent that you do. So if you're just getting started, these tools are going to be actionable for you. If you're not, and maybe you're more advanced, I'm going to recommend that you really, listen to these tools, these recommendations, and think about, what have I implemented? Could I go back and do a repeat or a redo or take something over again, reread, re-listen, and continue to implement and expand from there, right? Because there's so much out there. So it's just a matter of implementing. Remember, it's not knowledge that's power, it is action. Oh, and before I get into that, I just want to make mention, there are no sponsorships, no paid promotions, no nothing. This is my recommendations from my personal experience. You can see I'm not even done unpacking this office. There's a ton of books behind me. I can't tell you how many courses and workshops and podcasts and it's also not an all-inclusive, end all be all list. It's what came up for me today in making the part 2 for you. Books. So I have 4 on this list. I'll go through them briefly. Number one, and obviously I have them. Okay, number one, Think and Grow Rich. Like, time, tested, and true by Napoleon Hill. Okay, like a classic as it relates to success, to mindset, to building of just about anything, not just a business, but an amazing life, relationships, all of that. So Think and Grow Rich, 100%. The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. Like very much a pillar as it relates to mindset and the law of attraction. So make sure that you get that on your hands. This is an oldie to me, but a goodie. I checked the publication date, 2007. Okay, The How of Happiness. And I love the subtitle, A New Approach to Getting the Life You Want. Sonia Lyubomirsky. I'm sorry, Sonia, if I didn't pronounce that right. I love this book because it's very much backed by research and science, and there's a lot of actionable like tips and strategies for a person to take. If you dig into this one, you can have a lot of fun like experimenting with happiness and expanding your life. And then, this one is good. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And just a point on this. So this book was recommended to me. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's so funny. I didn't even think of that. It was recommended to me, months before I ended that relationship. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at first. This is not it's not a breakup book. Okay. But the timing, it just wasn't landing. And then several months later, I still hadn't done that breakup, but I was getting close. I was getting to my fed up point. And I picked it up. And I think in a lot of ways, it supported me in being able to move through some of the difficult feelings I was having, and just allowing myself to feel and to be afraid and to be like concerned, but to not let those feelings consume me such that I didn't take action. So I have since read the book probably 3 or 4 more times since back then, 5 years ago. So get it. Of course, there are so many other books. There are other books. Make sure that you're not just consuming them. Study them. Take action. Get a buddy or an accountability partner, right? Go and make sure that you are taking away and taking action based on what you're reading. Next, podcasts. One of my favorites is The School of Greatness. Lewis Howes is the host, and he is an amazing host. He has an incredible story. One of the things that I love about Lewis is he is an exceptional interviewer. He asks amazing questions. And like, you can tell that he's not only committed to providing people like you and I, his listeners, with a great experience, with powerful resources. Like, he is in his own constant state of expansion, which I just completely respect and admire. Next